River Valley Community College librarian. This is a short video to help you learn more about in-text citations in APA style. Let's start with an example. So the sentence reads, "One way to ease the pain of teething is to place a small amount of brandy on the baby's gums." Now, many people would have some questions about this statement. They might want to know where you got the information from, and also how old the information is. That's why we have in-text citations. This lets your reader know that you got the information from someone named Smith. Your reader can flip to your references page and see which article Smith wrote, and then look up the article. Secondly, it shows the reader that the information is from 1912, so it is quite out of date. This is your brain. Basically, anytime you're including information in your paper that does not come from your brain, you want to include a citation. So if you are including your opinion, you don't have to cite that because that information came from your brain. Also, if you are using common knowledge, something like Concord is the capital of New Hampshire. Most people know that. You know it off the top of your head, so you don't have to include a citation. But almost everything else you put into a research paper, you do need to cite. That way you're giving credit to the person who created the information, and you're also letting your reader know that you found that information somewhere else. Here's an example. In a study by Martinez, Shaw, and Black, 64% of participants reported less pain after the treatment. Is that something you would cite? Or something you don't need to cite? That's something you need to cite because this information came from a study that was performed by 3 scientists and then the results were published. It's not something that you created. It's not something you knew off the top of your head, so you need to provide a citation. Next example, patients with diabetes have difficulty regulating their blood sugar. Cite or no citation? In this case, you probably do not need to provide a citation because most people know that this fact is true. If you find yourself wondering though, should I cite this? Should I not cite this? You're not really sure. It's always best to cite. Best to go that extra step and make sure that you're giving credit. These are a few types of common in-text citations that we're going to look at. First off, here is a book that was written by one author. So to do an in-text citation, all we need to do is put the author's name and then a comma and the date that the book was published. This is the most common type of citation that you will do. One author with a date. Next, we have an example with 2 authors. In this case, we want to put both names, Patterson and Clinton, comma, 2018 because that's when it was published. Now notice, I didn't write the word and. I also didn't use a plus symbol. I specifically included the ampersand. In citations in APA, you always need to use the ampersand. Don't write out the word and. So when you're looking at the keyboard on your computer, the ampersand is Shift 7. Next we have 3 authors. Now if there are 3 or more authors, in your in-text citation, you just list the first author's name. And this is because you don't want your citations to be super long. Sometimes you may have an article that you use for a paper that has 20 authors. You can imagine how long your citation would be if you listed 20 names. So because of that, APA shortens it up. If it's 3 or more authors, you only include the first author's last name, and then you write et al. To indicate that there are more authors, comma, and then the date. Next, we have a kind of common situation when you're looking at websites. You find an article, but it doesn't tell you who wrote the article. In this case, you would put the title of the article at the beginning of the citation. Now, you don't put the entire title just because it would be very, very long in some cases. Instead of writing out the entire title, just the first word or two, this gives your reader plenty of information to flip to your references page and locate where you got the information from. You may also use a source that wasn't written by a specific person, but was created by an organization. In this case, I've written out River Valley Community College, and then you can see that I placed RVCC in brackets. This lets my reader know that I'm going to be referencing this source later in the paper. And instead of writing out River Valley Community College, I'm just going to refer to it as RVCC. And then lastly, you may have a source that does not have a publication date. In this case, you put the author's name, comma, N period D period, and that stands for no date. In-text citations go at the end of the information that you're referencing. So here's an example. Chest pain is a possible side effect and should be monitored. Now you'll see that I put the in-text citation in the middle of the sentence. What that tells my reader is that the first part of the sentence, chest pain is a possible side effect, is information that I got from the article by Martinez and the other scientists. The second half of the sentence, and should be monitored, is actually something that I wrote. Sometimes in your paper, you will have a few sentences next to each other that contain information that came from the same source. So the question is, do you put a citation at the end of every single sentence? Or can you just put it at the end of the section that contains the information that came from the same source? So this is what it would look like if we put a citation at the end of every sentence. The author grew up during the Cultural Revolution. You can see citation, Jong, no date. She was unable to attend school for several years. Same citation again, Jong, no date. That's a little bit redundant, so that's not how we do it. Instead, we'll put those two sentences next to each other, and then we'll put the in-text citation for Jong, no date at the end. That lets our reader know that all of that information came from the same place. And lastly, sometimes you're going to introduce information by using the author's name in the sentence. So for instance, let's say we had Angelo describes her childhood. We wouldn't want to put Angelo 1969 in the parentheses because you can see that that's kind of redundant. Instead, all you have to do is put the year. Now, after watching this video, you might have more questions. That's okay. That's why we're here to help. Please stop by the library, give us a call, send us an email. We are happy to meet with you on Zoom or in person and help you with any research questions you have and any questions about APA.